Our media partners in the room were temperature tested on their way in. Everybody's asked to wear a mask and maintain social distance. I am now going to take my mask off so that I'm less muffled for the microphone and so that those read lips can follow along. All right, thank you very much. As we always do, I'll run through a few brief announcements and then we'll take some questions. We'll start with the information on the COVID situation. As of yesterday, there have been 27,245 cases reported and 743 deaths. We're averaging around 90 new cases a day right now with a positivity rate at 4.4%. We want to underline, as we frequently do, but it's always worth hearing again, we need people to get tested. Please go and get tested. We have drive-up and walk-through testing available at several sites throughout the city. You can visit ready.nola.gov for the full list of addresses and times. I'm not going to list them all here, but we encourage people to get tested. If you've been exposed, if you have reason to think you've been near a super spreader event, please go get tested to determine your status. We do currently remain in Phase 1B, Tier 1 of the vaccination rollout. So far, we've vaccinated 87,404 people in the region. This is the context for all the enforcement actions that you heard about last week. When the mayor and Dr. Vegno and Peter and Chief Ferguson came out last week, this was the context for the announcements and the new restrictions that they rolled out. The behavior that we continue to see is dangerous. It risks lives and it risks the progress that we've made. As Mayor Cantrell and her staff told you last Friday, we are prepared to take enforcement action swiftly, and you began to see that last week. Over the weekend, multiple businesses, 7, were shut down across the city for failure to comply with the COVID restrictions. Those bars will remain shut down until the city allows them to reopen in writing. The process for that is that the owner of the establishment must provide an operational and management plan to Tammy Jackson, who's the Director of Safety and Permits. That plan must detail how the establishment will be adhering to the guidelines going forwards, and the establishment may not resume operation until the plan is reviewed and approved by Tammy and her team. Fines will be determined soon. Each establishment may be subject to a range of further action by the department, including an emergency suspension of the alcohol beverage outlet, the ABO permit. So again, there were 7 businesses shut down, and we are prepared to do that next weekend and moving forward should that be needed. We want to be clear that we love our locals, and we're doing all this to save lives and to protect people. It's not done in a capricious way, but it is done in the name of public health and public safety. Every decision we make is built around public health and public safety. But we want to be clear that when it comes to bars and business owners that are operating outside the guidelines, enforcement action will be swift, as we showed last weekend. To reiterate the guidelines that are going into effect this Friday through Mardi Gras, you heard them again last Friday, but I want to reiterate them, make sure that everybody's very clear on what's happening. All bars will be closed for indoor and outdoor citywide. Bars that are operating as restaurants with air-conditional permits are also going to be closed for that period from Friday through Saturday. There will be no packaged liquor sales in the French Quarter. Certain parts of the CBD, the exact boundaries of that are detailed on the website. In addition, all sales of to-go drinks are banned. Bourbon Street, Decatur Street, and Frenchman Street will be closed to pedestrians and vehicles from 7 p.m. till 3 p.m. each night. We want to be clear, though, that restaurants and retail stores can remain open. There's been a little bit of confusion in that in some places. Restaurants are allowed to serve liquor. They're not allowed to serve Go Cups or provide Go Cups for people to take them away, but restaurants are allowed to be open. As a matter of fact, we want to take a minute to recognize the tremendous work that so many of our restaurant owners have done to adhere to the guidelines, to adhere to the changes, and to do everything they can to make dining in restaurants in New Orleans as safe as it can possibly be in the current conditions. So we do want to thank them for that work and reiterate that restaurants are open through this period. Back to the guidelines that are in place, there will be no loitering on Bourbon Street, as Chief Ferguson said last week. The Claiborne Underpass and corridor is also being fenced off. Large gatherings are banned and cannot be tolerated. That includes activities that would encourage people to congregate, like street vending and performing. Mayor Cantrell will be out later today at 3:30 today at Gallier Hall. She's going to be joined by several of the Mardi Gras Indian chiefs to talk about why they are not masking this year. It is not the year for that. It is not a normal year. So much of our traditions and the way that we celebrate this season have to be different this year. We've said it from the beginning, but we want to reiterate. If you're coming here thinking you're going to celebrate like any normal year, don't come. It is not the year for that. A couple more announcements, and then we'll move on to questions. Let's see where we are. That's that. Okay, with no SIP, want to make sure everybody gets this. We did put out a press release, but we want to underline it here. The COVID-19 Meal Assistance Program has been extended through at least March the 1st. This will be the 8th month of that program. Funding for the extension was approved by FEMA. They cover 75% of the cost, and the city provides the remaining 25%. I also want to clear something up real quick. There was some incorrect information out online this week, I believe on a state website. The city is not hosting a drive-through vaccination site this week. We do hope to stand something like that up, but it's not happening this week. I believe they did take that information down, but there was a little bit of lack of clarity on that, and I want to make sure that we're clear that that was an error. There is not a drive-up vaccine site from the city this week. NOLA Ready has signed up already 2,000 volunteers for vaccine distribution. We are still looking for more. If you're interested in doing that, you have to be 18 or older to volunteer. More information and sign up is at ready.nola.gov/volunteer. One more big thing that I want to talk through before we get to questions, rental assistance program. A little while ago, our Chief of Staff, John Pusho, and Marjoriana Willman from OCD presented at the City Council Community Development Committee about the rental assistance program that we're implementing. Now, New Orleans received a direct initial allocation of $11.6 million from the U.S. Treasury to provide rental assistance to our residents. The city is expecting an additional $14 million from the state. That will be added to the same pot, and the big number is going to be $25 million going out to the community for rental assistance. We hope to go live with this program as early as February the 15th. The details are still being worked out. As soon as that's all locked down and confirmed, we will be putting it up on the website and very likely joining you with another press conference. The plan is to provide up to 12 months of rental assistance for those in need. We are focused on keeping our people stably housed, both for obvious humanitarian reasons and in order to stem transmission of the virus. This is an unprecedented effort to meet people where they are. We are partnering with the courts directly to ensure that any household facing imminent eviction for non-payment of rent is immediately brought to the front of the rental assistance line. Now, landlords that accept these funds will not be able to evict tenants for 90 days, except in the instance of illegal activity. We want to protect our residents against no-cause evictions, including non-renewals of month-to-month leases, and to make sure that we're using these funds for the greatest good of the city. We're certainly happy to make staff available for further questions on that later today. Quick infrastructure announcements. The traffic cameras are back on, as I think everybody knows, but it's worth repeating. Another announcement for availability. The mayor tomorrow at 10:30 will be at a groundbreaking for the new 4th District NOPD police station. That's going to be at 3320 Wall Boulevard. Again, that's tomorrow at 10:30. The mayor's going to be joined, of course, by Chief Ferguson. This Thursday, February the 11th at 6, the Department of Public Works and the Mayor's Neighborhood Engagement Office are going to be hosting a community information meeting in preparation for the start of construction on the North Lopez Street pedestrian bridge over the St. Louis Canal. The meeting is meant to provide information about the project and how it's going to be executed. Web access and dial-in information for that can be found at roadwork.nola.gov. And with that, we'll go to questions. In terms of when Bourbon is restricted?
Yes, because normally Mardi Gras.
Sure, it's all day and it starts early in the morning. Right now, the plan is for that physical restriction and the heavy police presence. There's going to be police presence throughout the weekend and throughout the day, but those restriction hours are still at 7 p.m. till 3 a.m. If that changes, we'll certainly let you know, but for now, it's the same time.
And is loitering also including the balconies? You know, a lot of people like to hang.
Sure, yeah. I think wherever our officers see people behaving in an unsafe manner, they're going to intervene. The entire NOPD force is on duty all weekend.
Well, how will you restrict pedestrians on Bourbon Street? Is there fencing similar to Claymore?
There's going to be barricades set up at regular intervals, and I think we've provided those addresses, but I can get the exact intersection locations for you, but that'll be from Canal all the way back. There will be officers staffing each intersection to making sure that people are not moving through, except if they're a hotel guest or if they're a resident or going to work on that street. But again, bars are closed, so there's not going to be a lot of that. Correct.
And is that through Mardi Gras Day? Because I know you said Saturday, Sunday, so is that the whole?
No, yes, that is through Mardi Gras Day. That's from Friday till Tuesday. All bars are closed.
Who else? Okay.
Well, have you heard anything about any drop-off in room rentals or anything?
Yeah.
Since the mayor's announcement, has there been a drop-off?
I don't know that there's been a drop-off, but I can tell you the numbers. The latest numbers that I got, we got these from the CVB. Right now, they're projecting around 37% occupancy for Friday, 41% for Saturday, and somewhere in the range of 30% for Sunday through Tuesday. You may want to check back with them if they've got updated information, but that's the most recent figure I had from them.
WDSU followed by but,
Mhm.
you know, you're saying 7 PM at night, well, a lot of restaurants are still open,
Correct.
you know, I mean, how do they get?
If you're
through
working at a
all-
restaurant, or if you are going to the restaurant, the police will stop you, at the intersection, check which restaurant you're going to, and you're going to go to that restaurant. But you're not going to be permitted to gather in the street and create a large gathering situation on Bourbon Street.
Do you know?
In the press release, it said that there would be, fines if necessary if people weren't complying.
Correct.
Of that nature.
Yeah.
Just in your own words, why is it so important, especially this year?
Well, I think when we started this press conference, I told you there were 743 New Orleanians that had died from this. That's the reason alone, right? The reason that this year is different is because we remain in the midst of a global pandemic that is costing lives. We know that large gatherings spread COVID. We know that COVID kills people. It's as simple as that.
Bob, say,
And when you're talking about the being blocked off at the intersections, that's throughout the whole Prince Corridor?
Yes, I'm not sure the exact stop point. I know it starts on Canal. I'm not sure what street they're going to stop that on. I think they're going about 10 blocks back. But again, I'd have to check the intersection and get back to you.
Rob?
So I think Jeff tried to get this from you last week, but in terms of messaging, are you satisfied with these numbers, or would you like people to come if they can obey the rules of this new Mardi Gras?
The messaging really, I feel like we get in sort of a back and forth over, will you say this or will you say that? The messaging at its core is that it is not safe to observe Mardi Gras the way that we have before. And I think you heard Councilmember Banks say, you heard the mayor say, if you're coming here anticipating it being like it always is, don't come. That is the message. Because it's not going to be like it's been any other year.
But if they want to come, would you like to see the hotel rooms fill up if people can abide by the rules?
I think what we want to see is a safe Mardi Gras. And right now, we know that a safe Mardi Gras does not mean large crowds. That's why we close bars. That's why there's no parades.
Yeah. WWL?
Does the mayor have any plans for Fat Tuesday?
I will let you ask her that. She'll be out later today at 3:30. Okay?
Do you know, back to Fox 8?
Last question, what's your message to, those frustrated bar owners, those restaurant owners who are saying this is unfair?
Yeah, well, to be clear, as we've said, the restaurants are allowed to remain open. The message really, though, is that the pain of a 5-day loss, which we understand it is, we understand that there's pain there, we understand that there's a loss of income there, but that has to be weighed against what would happen, what could still happen if we get a tremendous spike and we have to shut down entirely, right? You have to weigh the long term against the short term. Even if you're not talking about the actual loss of human life, the potential impact of a huge super spreader event, when we know we have instances of these new variants out there that are more contagious, it creates more danger. So with that context, we would say we appreciate that this is painful and we regret that it's necessary, but you have to weigh the cost of being closed for 5 days next week against the potential cost of the entire city being closed all the way back down to a total shutdown.
But, off topic, the Hard Rock, is there any updates?
I do not have any updates on that,
Just
no.
about down?
As I've said before, and I will point you back to the contractors and the business owners on that one. Yeah.
Last question is WSU. Okay, follow up to the first quarter again. A lot of local businesses, a lot of bars, a lot of people that need to pay their rent,
Yeah.
pay,
Right.
insurance. Is the city gonna do anything to help them out because they're losing 5 more days,
Right.
on top
Again,
of a
as
whole
I
year?
said a minute ago, the loss of that 5 days has to be balanced against the potential loss of months and months of a total lockdown, right? Again, we understand that it's painful. We understand that it's not easy. It's not something that we ask lightly. We're doing it to save lives and to keep our locals and our people safe.
Is there anything the city can do to help them out?
Again, as I think we talked pretty thoroughly about the rental assistance program, that is one of several things we're doing. That's $25 million that we're going to try to make available for direct rental assistance as soon as possible. Okay? Thank you all very much. Appreciate you.